It is time for tonight's feature discussion. Tonight we talk about public procurement. Namibia is committed to developing a 5-year public procurement strategy through which the country's procurement priorities, approach strategies and measures of success over the medium term will be outlined. Now, the primary objective of conducting the MAPS assessment in Namibia is to review Namibia's public procurement system to inform the ongoing development of that public procurement reform strategy. And for more on this, I am now joined in the studio by Pinehas Nsundamo, the acting head of Procurement Policy Unit in the Ministry of Finance. Good evening, sir. Welcome to Business Today.
Good evening, Mr. Denver. Thank you very much. And thank you to your viewers.
Indeed. Now we are discussing the Ministry's 5-year assessment and review assessment of the public procurement strategy. Could you maybe just talk to us about what necessitated the assessment of the public procurement system?
Yes, just like in any other institution or any other business continuity, from time to time you need to do the assessment and the review in order for you to align yourself in terms of the best practice. So that is one of the reason or that necessitated the need for the change. But also, if you look at our regulatory framework in terms of the Public Procurement Act, more so in terms of Section 6(1)(b), it talks of the reviewing of the procurement system and also propose mechanism for change. And through that, it's what really informed the government through the Ministry of Finance in order for us to carry out the MAPS assessment, which is a methodology of assessing public procurement system.
Okay. So that explains what MAPS is. Could you maybe take us through some of those major findings during the assessment? We know that public procurement is always a big topic in Namibia, and as far as the challenges that's been facing, what are some of the findings that has been found through this assessment?
Thank you very much. One of the areas that is suggested for purposes of improvement is the use of much more robust in terms of competitive bidding process, where bidders and suppliers will be in a position to compete and the best be selected from the bidding process. You would also realize that this Public Procurement Act came into operation on the 1st of April 2017. The ministry and the government conducted a review or conducted the amendment there of 2022, of which was limited in areas. Okay. So it has been found that we need to relook at the public procurement itself, and that is the review of the entire act. It's one of the areas that we want to look at. And we also want to introduce measures in terms of enforcement. Currently, we have realized that there is a need to enhance the enforcement to the Public Procurement Act. It's one of the areas that needs to be done. There are institutional that are created in terms of the Public Procurement Act, more so the Procurement Policy Unit, which is created in terms of Section 6(1) of the Public Procurement Act, with a huge mandate. And there is a need in terms of the assessment that this Procurement Policy Unit, as a department within the Ministry of Finance, needs to be rearranged in order to give it the necessary support and also the authority to carry out its mandate in terms of regulatory mandate. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. You've obviously now mentioned some of the challenges that have been picked up, and I guess just looking at the general public, there's also the matter of capacity, and then also whether the procurement system is really as transparent as it should be in its current format. Talk to us about the aspect of transparency and how this is being addressed.
Thank you very much. The Public Procurement Act, in line in terms of Section 2, which talks to the objective of the public procurement, it lists, among other the accountability, objective, fairness, and also effective and efficiency. It's therefore that we currently have a competitive, more transparent public procurement. However, there is a room for us to enhance that. If you see our bidding process, you have a bid evaluation committee which is independent, and its job is to do the evaluation. Then you have the procurement committee, which then looks at the work or the report of the bid evaluation, and then recommend to the accounting officer or to the CEO. So there is segregation of powers and duties, and that in itself gives the issue of accountability, transparency, and effectiveness. However, there is a need and there is a room for us to improve on that aspect, and that is what has come out in terms of the findings of the MEPS assessment. Okay.
So we mentioned your specific unit, the Procurement Policy Unit, and its effectiveness. You did mention that it's not all bad news there, but then when we look at changing and reevaluating it, how is this new procurement strategy going to accommodate your unit, and what will be strengthened? What would be practically improved on?
Yes, the two areas of improvement that needs to be looked at. We are happy that Cabinet in March has endorsed and made a decision in terms of the autonomous of the public, the Procurement Policy Unit. And also through that, there is a need to increase the capacity of the Procurement Policy Unit. It is the only regulatory body or unit within the entire of our country that needs to regulate procurement in its totality. You are talking about close to 270 public entities that rest on the shoulder of the Procurement Policy Unit in terms of regulatory, in terms of providing the necessary bidding documents, standard forms and templates in that way.
Are we looking at a completely autonomous body away from just being an administrative function of the ministry? Just talk to us about that.
Yes, what is envisaged and what is in the MEPS recommendation, also taking into account the cabinet decision on that matter, is the fact that this body should be autonomous, however, laying its reporting line within through the Ministry of Finance as the custodian of the public purse. Yes.
All right. I think another challenge or another complaint and criticism that we often find is that companies do not strictly comply to the guidelines of the public procurement system. What are some of the loopholes that necessitated, or what is the way forward in terms of closing those loopholes?
Thank you very much. The way forward is much more to strengthen on our public education in order to educate both the public entities and also the bidders as to the advantage of compliance to the Public Procurement Act. And as such, we at the Procurement Policy Unit are fully engaged in testifying or in pushing this forward in terms of intensifying the reforms or in terms of educating the public and the bidders and as well in terms of the compliance to the Public Procurement Act.
That actually brings me now to the question of also uncompetitive market practices, and I do see that there is mention of offices like the ACC, the Office of the Auditor General, the Competition Commission, as other procurement oversight agencies that sort of can complement what you are doing. In what way do these agencies complement the work that you do?
Yes, as you have indicated, the Office of the Auditor, they are responsible for auditing. The ACC, as we all are aware, is responsible for investigation, corruption and related offenses. as well as the Namibian police, more especially their commercial unit, which looks at the issue of fraud and so forth.
Okay.
This institution, they are mandated in terms of their various legal instruments to carry out their duties. So they do complement us in terms of curbing or in terms of investigating corruption in public procurement. And we also complement them where they require our assistance.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think there's another criticism that some government entities are said to be using middlemen, often unnecessarily. Is that something that has received attention or that is being discussed, and is that a worry of yours?
Yes. What we would prefer is to have a supplier or a bidder that can give us the best advantageous evaluated bid, and who can supply the goods and services. We would also want to have a system where we graduate our bidders from just a mere middleman to that of somebody really that conducts
Specialist
business,
yeah.
and they can provide the necessary goods and services.
Okay.
If you start as just a middleman, then you must graduate to be a manufacturer. That's what we want to see, industrialization of government system.
So when that is going to be provided for as far as developing that chain?
Yes, together with the other ministries and state agencies, that would also, it's one of the priorities of government to see that the business community or the small and medium enterprise, they don't remain as such, but they also graduate and they be able to be a manufacturer and a supplier of goods and services.
Okay. Now, we're talking about it in bits and pieces, I guess, but overall, when we look at public procurement and what it's all designed for, obviously to bring positive impact to the socio-economic dynamic, in a nutshell, would you say that given all the challenges that you're faced with, that still that mandate is being successfully achieved?
Yes, I could say that we have achieved in certain areas, though there's still a need for improvement, there's room for improvement, but we are quite sure that we are there, and that's why there was a need for MEPS assessment. This is also to bring in recommendations and changes that we would want to have.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I just want to take you back to the complaints and the criticisms that there have been. Accountability, integrity, transparency. These are things that have come under scrutiny. What were the findings in that regard? How are they going to be addressed?
Yes. Some of the areas that were identified in the report, these we have already covered them, or they are being addressed at the moment, and also they have been addressed from the past. Remember, the assessment was conducted between 2023 and 2024. We are now in 2025. However, the government, through the Ministry of Finance and to the Procurement Policy Unit, are to develop a national strategy in terms of how best do we want to take public procurement to the next level. And this will be a strategy for the country for the next 5 years. And some of these issues, as identified, they'll be addressed through that strategy as we go forward.
Okay. I've also focused a lot of the questioning on internal criticisms and from members of the public. But what are some of the just the pressures and perhaps some of the expectations internationally? Because we know that this assessment was also done in communication with the World Bank, with the Africa Development Bank. What are some of the expectations there, and what is it that they ideally want to see?
Yes. Internationally, they have received the report, and also they have praised the public procurement system of Namibia.
Okay.
It's one of its own kind that was conducted in SADC and being published as we now have it.
Okay.
Yes, so much of it was a praise in terms of how Namibia is conducting itself in terms of public procurement.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe elaborate on some of the positives also, because I'm harping on some of the negatives and the criticisms. What are some of the areas where we stand out?
Yes, some of the areas that we stand out is in terms of our regulatory framework. Our regulatory framework is quite sound. Our pillars in terms of that, or the indicator in terms of that, it's quite good.
Okay.
Yes, we have the institutional that are there. However, there's a need, to capacitate and also to professionalize those institutions.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then maybe as far as how big is the need for stepping into the policy territory? You mentioned that it looks good, but there's need for improvement. How much need for policy formulation and policy reformulation was discovered?
It's not that much big. However, having the assurance or having the government ready to support, as I've indicated earlier on, that government through cabinet already took a decision in order to support this reform. Right. We believe that the necessary support is there, so it will not be much of a big challenge, and in terms of that, we are ready and we will be able to take out the necessary reforms.
Okay. Now, the report was just recently launched and released. Maybe take us through the pipeline now. What happens until we start to see the physical improvement on the ground, until folks procuring are saying, well, we're quite happy with what we're seeing here? Yes.
Having the report now being released, it's now for the Ministry of Finance through the Procurement Policy Unit to formulate the action steps that will be taken in terms of the national strategy that will take us through. We have also already undertaken, as I've said earlier, on some of these reforms. Right. Like if you say in terms of capacitating institutions, we have identified that there's a need to professionalize public procurement in OMAs and agencies of government. For that, we have already embarked on the professionalization of the public procurement within government ministries.
Okay.
That has already commenced, and then there's already a benchmark studies that we are busy now conducting. Okay. So that is the improvement that you could see in that area. As early as this year, Cabinet had already cleared, or Secretary to Cabinet had already cleared us to conduct this reform in terms of the OMAs, or ministries and agencies.
So in terms of then these complaints of understaffing and unqualified persons in positions, that should be a thing of the past realistically? Yes,
as I've said, we are busy with that to address that issue. These benchmark studies will be able to inform us what job category, and also once the job category are established, we will be ready to fit in the right skills and qualifications for people to manage public procurement.
All right. Mr. Nsundamo, anything else that you might want the nation to know that I maybe neglected to focus on as far as the assessment of the procurement system and the way forward?
Thank you very much. Maybe what I can just stress is the fact that the government is committed to reform the public procurement through the Ministry of Finance, our Honorable Minister, Ms. Erica Shafuda, who is now the Minister of Finance,
right,
and our Executive Director as well. So we are committed to the delivering of service through the public procurement system.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Nsundamo, thank you so much for joining us tonight and speaking to us so candidly.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Yes.
Well, that was Pinehas Nsundamo, the acting head of the Public Procurement Policy Unit in the Ministry of Finance. He was discussing the public procurement strategy currently under review. International business news follows shortly. Stay with us.